Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister for Youth Justice. The latest Productivity Commission report on youth justice services reveals that the average daily cost of imprisoning a young person in Victoria is the highest in the nation. At a cost to the Victorian taxpayer of nearly $7,500 per day, it is 3 times that of New South Wales and $2,000 more than the second highest spender, Tasmania. As well as being the most expensive system in the country, it is one of the least effective in reducing reoffending. Nationally, Victoria has the 3rd highest proportion of young people returning to sentence supervision within 12 months of release from detention. So I ask the Minister, given the eye-watering cost of incarcerating our youth, why do Victoria's recidivism rates remain so high?
Minister.
Thank you, President. And I reject the premise of Mr Ettershank's question. I think as a government, I've been quite clear that this report is an important report, and I thank the Report on Government Services for their work. And what that report says to you is that as a government we are proud of the investments we have made in running a modern and effective youth justice system. Running a system with greater investment means more support for young people when they're with us. That means both when they're with us in custodial facilities and when they're out in the community. And we do.
Order. Mr Ettershank's not yelling. He's the one who asked the question, and he's sitting there trying to hear it.
Yeah.
Minister, without people yelling.
Yeah, and I think it's more when you read the report, and I really do want to thank the Productivity Commission for their report. It is important point in time because instead of cherry-picking the statistic, it's important to make sure that we have a more meaningful comparison with other jurisdictions. And in fact, the overall cost of our system relative to the size of our youth population is in fact comparable. So we're about average, in fact, in terms of cost per young person in our state. And what it also shows that we do have a modern system where we've invested in modern infrastructure, in modern programs. That means wraparound support services. And we continue to have the lowest incarceration rate in the nation for young people, which means anyone that understands basic economics, there's economies of scale here at play. So if you have less people in custody, the cost per young person is higher. So you should be pleased to hear that, Mr Ettershank. As the increase in young people in custody increases, the cost per person will in fact decrease. So year on year, the cost per young person has in fact decreased by 9%, and when the next report on government services is out, you'll see a further decrease in the cost per young person because our tough new bail laws are working. Adult time for violent crime is working and is meaning that more young people are being incarcerated, therefore the cost per young person will decrease.
Mr Ettershank, supplementary.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Minister, for that economic triumph. Minister, the same report highlights yet again that young First Nations people represent 15% of people in custody, despite making up only 1.5% of Victorians aged 10 to 23, tenfold. In your submission to the Youth Justice Commission, you stated that the aim of the government's youth justice strategy is to prevent Aboriginal children or young people being in custody at all, and that, and I quote, "we need to do more to divert them from the damaging effects of contact with the criminal justice system in the first place." Can the Minister inform the House of the specific measures being taken to reduce the number of First Nations people in youth detention?
Minister.
Thank you, President. I thank Mr Ettershank for his supplementary question. And I do thank him because this is an important issue that I know myself and many across this chamber are very passionate about. You'd appreciate, as the Minister for Youth Justice and as Minister for Corrections, I don't necessarily determine who enters into our system, but I do have an obligation to provide services and support, wraparound support for young people when they contract our system so they have the best opportunity to turn their lives around. And that's what I'm committed to doing. In terms of when people do enter our system, we do have support. And we try to provide a culturally safe environment for young people. But of course, that is balanced with our commitments to keep the community safe. So people will be given opportunities to turn their lives around, but whether they take them is ultimately up to them. But as a government, we are committed. We've had a long-standing agreement with First Nations people and an Aboriginal Justice Agreement. We're just about to, actually, the Attorney-General and I are we're enthusiastic about AJ5, to be frank, and about what that entails and what the future looks like. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this space, and that's a commitment of not just myself, but the whole of government.